was an issue with YouTube. I'm going to run my 30-second countdown and we'll pretend that I know how to do this. How's that sound? Okay, good. So that was trippy. It really was. So I hit the go live button, professional, right? And then all of a sudden, I get a message on Restream saying stream failure, YouTube failure. And it's this button and it looks like, do you want to launch the nuclear weapons? And I'm like, yes, I want to launch the nuclear weapons. So then I hit go live again and I'm like, let's see if this works. And it's like, oh, we're live. So, that's what happened. But you're not here to see me. You're here to see the stunning and brave and beautiful and handsome and amazing birthday boy known as Amanda Manetheren. Nathan, how are you doing?
I'm doing well, brother. How are you?
I'm all right. I remember to bring chat in. I don't have a purple Valkyrie here in private chat going, asshole, read the chat. So sorry, I've missed a lot of comments. Before we get into it, in this, we do actually have news. And there's some stuff I was saying to Nathan. Nathan, have you heard this? He's like, what? So it's going to be that kind of a show. Warning, if there are small children in the room, you may want to give them schnapps and give them a dictionary. The Urban Dictionary is what all the profanity really means. So I want to say hello to the one, the only, the incomparable Babe Slayer, known as Jaden Hamilton. Jaden, I want updates on that girl in college that had the boyfriend that you were going to be the good guy, not the nice guy. Hello to Ms. Martin Muses, the one and only Teresa. She does the Lord's work by covering some truly great, good fantasy, which has been unmolested by woke values and other things like that. Teresa, thank you so much for being here. We also have Hardlight, who says custom intro voice video. Yes, it's true. Yeah, that was what you call a cold open. It was so cold. It was like Jennifer Lawrence's career over the past couple of years. Oh, go to her for history lessons. We've got James Nicholson says, "Hail Salty" in the chat. We have the one and only, the incomparable Purple Valkyrie, who's out there working the room and shaking hands. Shield Wall of Dragons, hail to you. It's great to see you guys. We'll jump through here. We've got Nerdscape, who's singing happy birthday to you. I bet he's singing happy birthday to you, Nick.
Dulcet tones of Digital's
Dulcet
1100111100.
That's hot. Stop. You're getting me emotionally erect. Psycho Dwarf 9 says, howdy, y'all, Purple Valkyrie. I'll put pics up. Uh-oh. Pics of what? Pixar didn't happen. Dempsey is here. Good guy. Put out an album recently. Please, Dempsey, feel free to put the link to your own channel and the music that you create in this show. I would love for people to hear it. You do the Lord's work. Jaden Hamilton, you are not up on current events, and that's okay because I am slipperier than Amber Turd's bottom after going to Chipotle and sitting on Johnny Depp's bed. No, I migrated. I'm doing some things. I moved across the country for a couple different reasons. I'm helping a friend who's got a small business. I'm also involved in a patriotic civil organization, which I believe in, but which needs officers. And it's something I believe in. I don't know if this is permanent or not, but it is what, as Nathan would say, prayerful consideration led me to. So that's what's going on. It is true. Look at this. Our man down under, Nick McCabe, says, hey there, everyone. Good to see you. Well, Nick, great to see you. Oh, and look, Miss Martin muses. She's blushing in a virginal way. Daniel is here as well. Daniel's been dropping straight up red pill bombs on Twitter. And my friend, don't let it get to you. If you need to vent, hit me in private DMs because these are strange days, and the days they're just going to get stranger. Daniel says, I used up my
Mhm.
profanity limit when I heard about Brandon Sanderson's apology video for the Rings of Power. Now, funny you should mention that. There is someone you all know by the name of Steve, and he likes donuts, and he was supposed to be here, but both Nathan and I been unable to reach him, so he's probably passed out for various reasons. Now, Steve, Steve was spurging on social media, and I actually was sitting at a bar having a beer. True story. And I said, Steve, do you need to talk about this? Do you need to get it out of your system? He said, yes. So I drove, I finished my beer, drove home, and sat down and Steve, Prophet of the Dragon, and I recorded for about half an hour. He said he's editing that video, but that is what that is referring to. Brandon Sanderson. I don't know. I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait and see. We're probably going to do an EFAP like analysis in micro detail, analyzing what Kyle Zach7 put out on our Twitter feed. So let's see what else we got here. If I've missed anybody's clever comments, of course I have, because I don't have a purple Valkyrie. And look at this. My Brave crashed. Nathan, I'm going to need you to take the show because, again, my own streaming app just locked up on me.
Oh,
All you. Yeah. Wait, I'm getting a
that's
message.
awesome.
Yeah, I'll be back. All right. See everybody. This is fun, isn't
All
it?
right.
I'll be back.
Times.
Oh, I can't even
Well,
leave. Look at this. I'm locked out.
dude, they totally ate his computer up. So, yes, the answer to that statement earlier, yes, Steve does like donuts a bit too much, probably because he fills them himself with all of his lovely little dragon essence, if you know what I mean. So, yeah, and I didn't hear about this Sanderson stuff shilling for Rings of Power until until Corey just told me about half hour ago because I've been kind of out of the loop, and that is insanely disappointing. Although I'm kind of wondering if he thinks it's better than Wheel of Time, is that really high praise? Because we don't know exactly where he falls on that, even though he did do that little bit of corporate shilling because he was involved in Wheel of Time. I don't know if we really got a taste for where exactly he stands with it. That said, any praise for either of those shows, it's like, which is the better smelling turd, right? I don't think it's a whole lot of high praise. So, but yeah, let's see, what else do we got? Mistborn, the latest Mistborn sucked from Hardlight. Okay, that's probably a hot take. I have not read any Mistborn. I will get into it eventually, um, but
All
I've
right.
heard that
I
the
don't know.
second Age Mistborn was not as good as the first three. So,
Can you hear me? It just nuked chat, and I know we had some super chats.
yep.
So Nathan, go ahead and cover for me
Oh, sure.
while I go back here. So I have to go back on YouTube to see what's going on over here. We also have Whitechapel is here today. Hard Light. We have a super chat, and I know how to do this. From Psycho Dwarf 9, he says it's for $5. Thank you very much. He says, Salty Travel and Sea. I'm getting a Celtic badger and a quote litany of fear has a tattoo Tuesday. Psycho Dwarf 9, I would love to see pictures of that as long as it's not near your PP. I would love to see that. So if you can, please share that with everybody at home. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay.
I can.
Can you guys hear me on YouTube? Because chat has entirely disappeared. It is kind of being crazy. So we've got Ludo Grangine is also there. And if I butchered your name, it is not intentional. Nerdscape is in the house. Purple Valkyrie is in the house. Daniel, let's see. Dempsey, I can hear you. Thank God. Okay, chat is back. So now that I've buried the lead for about 10 minutes and my own damn new Brave browser has kicked me out yet again of my own show, Nathan, what have you
Yes.
heard before we get into it about what they're doing with season 2 in Tom Merlin. That was one of the things that you and I and Steve and Kyle and OBG70 and Aldan and a whole lot of people, including Disparu, were talking about last year before Wheel of Time really kind of crashed into a mountain and became trans. What have you heard about Tom Merlin? And are you
I
aware of, is he going to be in the show or not?
I've heard he is doing the absolute Houdini and not
Mm,
appearing in season 2, but promising that he'll
well,
probably be in there for season 3. And,
sure.
but again, we also were wondering where was he in season 1 because that was not the real Tom Maryland.
No, no. One of the things that I remember was the deliberate insertion of Western twangy guitar music. Like this is a bad 80s Western, and Spurs jingling when Tom Merlin was briefly on screen with, of course, not Matt.
Mhm.
Now, this article covers pretty much what I believe Steve Prophet of the Dragon says, as well as you said. So there it is. There's not Tom Merlin added to the list of not Rand, Lot, not Matt, not Perrin. Yeah, if you've been following our coverage. So here's the thing: you'll know that would Tom Merlin be in season 2? Now, obviously, he's all within the Great Hunt, but then again, he was all in the Eye of the World. Now, wasn't he? The actor Alexandre Wilhelm recently cleared up the mystery. He said in an interview while discussing upcoming projects, quote, "The Wheel of Time, I'm not in season 2 because my character, Tom Merlin, is not in season 2, but we hope he will be in season 3. Now, this isn't exactly new news. It's the first time I'm covering it. This is not the reason I went live with this, but this is why I wanted to kick it off, because one of the things that we've seen with Wheel of Time from the very beginning was the layers of lies and obfuscation. And it is something that, in my opinion, Rafe Judkins is exceptionally good at being a manipulator, a liar, in addition to being a talentless hack. Um, and Amazon is in full damage control because they put out this little fantasy show, and it only cost $1 billion. Nathan, I don't know if you saw it or not, but it was called
Yeah.
what was it? The Rings of Power. And I don't know, it wasn't a big thing. Not a lot of people actually watched it. So those of you who are in chat, you could be forgiven if you have no idea what I'm talking about, because it really was a huge failure. No one
Oh,
actually
yeah.
watched the show. So,
Yeah.
but
Well, as a
yeah,
matter of fact, you dropped out after episode 4, so I can
yeah.
honestly look at you and say, "You have not seen what I have seen."
Yes. Well, I saw Nerdtorial's grin on horseback for Gladriel, and that was enough. Honestly, I mean, that's why I took time off of the channel. I couldn't do it anymore, and I've talked about it on numerous videos that I do. But I think there's a certain line where I, as a creator, and I'm speaking only for myself, I realized that I was becoming part of the Hollywood marketing mechanism, that they were deliberately creating shit tier shows that were not in any way meant to be the properties for the sole reason of listening to us bitch and complain. Now, we should complain. Now, we should offer feedback. Why? Because we are the audience, we are the customer, we are the consumer of this product. As I've said in a recent video, we gave that in good faith, going, this is something I love. Can you please not wreck it and make it trans and gay and diverse and communist and climate change and minor attracted? Can you just
Mm.
tell me a story and entertain me? Because if you do that, I will give you lots and lots of my attention and money. I will buy action figures. I will buy merch. I will buy bobbleheads. But no, they're
Right.
not doing that. And the reason why is the ESG scores and hitting those are so important. Now, why is that? What the hell is Salty talking about? If you hit those ESG scores, you have a lower interest rate on your hundreds of millions of dollars in loans that you have outstanding. And one can only postulate that somebody somewhere said it's more profitable for us to have a lower interest rate on our hundreds of millions or billions of dollars worth of loans than it is to make actual revenue from new
Oh.
product. Now, if you have a more rational explanation than I do, I would love to hear it, but I think that is part
Well,
of this equation.
but that begs the question, who would these loans be to, Salty?
BlackRock, the major investment vanguard, all of these organizations, the same ones that are being
I mean,
investigated by the state of Tennessee, the state of Texas, the state of Virginia, the state of West Virginia, the state of Kentucky. All of these
huh.
states are all, there are several states around the country also divesting from funds that are for retirement pensions, for state pensions that are invested in these funds that require the ESG score stuff. Now, is there
You
hope
you
on the
you
horizon? Go
you
ahead.
mean BlackRock, that company that was just deemed by the federal government too big to fail? That
It's
very
al
BlackRock?
it's almost like there's some type of conspiracy.
I mean,
It's almost like there's too many people on the planet. That's not this kind of a
wait a
show.
minute.
I do that show, it's called Phenomenal, and that's probably more goddamn truth in 1 hour than you will get out of MSNBC in 10 years. But let's go ahead and continue on. Let's continue on while my browser's behaving itself. I can do this. I know how to do this. Bear with me 1
Your
second.
bold and brave browser.
Oh god, I have so many windows open. I can't and it's like so small. Ladies, so this is part of the news. Now, Nathan, you knew about this. I didn't know about this until today because quite frankly, I was busy working on another video related to Rafe Judkins because you fail upwards in Hollywood. Rafe Judkins is now balls deep in doing the God of War. We will get into that in a little more
Ooh.
detail. We know who's now writing that. Weep. Weep. If you believe in a higher power, I suggest prayer. So let's take a look at this article. Chat, I'm going to bounce you out real quick. And this is, I know how to do this. All right, here we go. Wheel of Time premiere date teased. So the horror can begin again. Amazon has given fans some hopeful news. No, they haven't. Now, there is likely a bigger announcement. Now, according to a report from Telegraph India, Amazon Prime Video India said that the Wheel of Time Season 2 will premiere at Comic-Con 2023 at Comic-Con Delhi. So
Sounds like a
the Wheel
sandwich.
of Time, the Wheel of Time, the huge box office smash here in North America and England, which is primarily based around North America, well, actually in English and European mythology, it's going to debut in India. Why? Because of ESG. That's why. Now it will premiere at Comic-Con 23 Delhi, and it got even more hype at Comic-Con XP in Brazil recently. We also saw the same thing with Amazon Prime Brazil trying to pimp the Rings of Power, which was a failure. Now, they say while an official release date hasn't been announced, more and more fans are finding themselves looking at early 2023. Now, there's more to this. Nathan, you heard January,
Mhm.
and that's what we're looking at here. This is the latest as of last week. I would anticipate that when they're at Comic-Con Delhi in India, they're going to give us a firm date. But we knew this last year that they were going to go and roll this thing out probably in early 2023. I'm guessing that this is going to come out in late January, if not March. So, what have you heard?
Yeah, what I had heard is earliest would be January. I don't think it could be any sooner than that, really, because they've had. I mean, unless they're pulling the Disney tactic and not actually promoting their media shows and movies, but
Well, here's the thing. They finished filming this a long time ago. They
mhm,
finished principal photography quite a while ago. This is
yeah,
probably, I
like
want to
June or
say
July, I think.
June or July because they were filming in Romania, or somewhere, Bulgaria. What is interesting from this pop culture article, again, this is from December 12th, is that they say season 3 is expected to begin filming in early 2023, meaning that the cast would be engaged in doing press junkets to continue to pimp this incredibly successful show. And that behind the scenes posts will help drive viewers to the show for season 2. Well, I'm not really sure that's going to happen. The startling lie of this article is that finally, after the success of the Rings of Power, Amazon will likely want to capitalize its momentum and hold fantasy fans' attention for as long as possible.
Now,
Nathan,
see that comment there
chat,
is
tell me what you're
absolutely
thinking about
asinine.
that.
That
It
comment
is
is asinine
sorry.
because if they wanted to hold fantasy fans' attention, you would think that logic would say, you put this show out right on the heels of Rings of Power. But the thing is they've pushed this show off
Yeah.
for so long because they realized after they did the first season of Wheel of Time that doing anything right off of the Rings of Power with Wheel of Time would be absolute horrible, absolute horrible, horrible timing because they realized doing what they did to Wheel of Time, they were doing it with Rings of Power. And so you're going to sit there and have this angst completely build out through an additional season of fantasy. They didn't want to do that. And what has happened since Rings of Power finished? Crickets.
Yeah.
There's been nothing. They got shut
Yeah.
out of all the awards for all the Emmys, I think it was, that just got released.
Yeah,
You
the
know,
Golden Globes, the People's Choice, all
yeah.
that stuff. Again, a lot of these awards are industry circle jerk awards, and
Mhm.
they're not are any of these shows real? But a lot of them are just circle jerk, like, oh, that person advertised the most and it's going to let me fuck their sister, so I'm going to give them this pointless, stupid trophy. Um, yeah, hard light. Finally, someone else is preaching. Yeah, it's true. We can be part of the problem. We can, and I think if we complain about things, which we have every right to do, and if you have a channel, you do whatever the hell you want. Nobody listens to me anyway, and I know that. I'm just saying, maybe take a step back and go, are you actually being part of the problem? You know, and I am not the moral authority of that. I am not. But what I'm saying is that at a certain point, how many times are we going to do the Pavlovian response of, "Oh my god, Andor is woke. Oh my god, season 3 of The Mandalorian is woke. Oh my god, look, another strong independent woman in this show, in that show, in this show, in that show." No shit. That's all we've gotten. There is nothing else. There is going to be nothing else. I'm encouraged by Henry Cavill's announcement. I really am. I spent a roller coaster day the last 48 hours. I have no relationship with Henry Cavill. He doesn't even know I effing exist. But the man's performance as Superman, while not perfect, was the most dangerous and destructive thing to what they're trying to do to our
Mhm.
world right now. It was inspirational, it was aspirational, and it celebrated American values. Now, if you're in another country and you're offended by that, I'm sorry, but I'm an American. You can claim Superman too. They can be Brazilian values, they can be British values or French values or whatever you want. Truth, justice, in the American way, which to me means individuality. What is something the assholes destroying? Not just our immune systems through poison, but our economy, our energy, our children. They do not want you to be human. And those qualities that Henry Cavill represented as Superman were the best of what it meant to be human, even though he
Mhm.
was a Kryptonian. And so that's a dangerous thing.
Yeah. There was a video that, MVP Max von Priestley put out this
Mm,
morning that I thought
yep.
was really, really good. And one of the things that I commented on that I really appreciated about Cavill's performance as Superman was that despite the script writing, despite how really subpar that was and how un-Superman they presented Superman in that movie, you could still see Cavill presenting that Superman through that script. I thought that he did an amazing job with personifying what Superman really is,
Yes.
despite what they were trying to present. And
Yes.
that's why everybody gets excited about Cavill being Superman because they realize, he knows what it takes. They realize he knows what it takes to be the Witcher,
Yeah.
and he
Here's the
gets constantly
this is a true story. Those of you who were here from the beginning, I was talking about how I was in a bar having a drink last night. Yes, I do. I might drink just a little bit, but I was having a drink when I found out that Steve, Prophet of the Dragon, was having a hard day, and needed to talk about the stuff with Sanderson, which we'll talk about a little bit more. But I was in this bar, and it was a bar that I'd got thrown out of before because I wouldn't wear my face diaper. You know, the G-string that prevents infectious diseases from getting you, because that's a thing. We can talk about millimicrons and the size of virus particles. It's part of the reason that I got booted off social media, because I actually know what the fuck I'm talking about. But
hot
so
dog
I
through a
wouldn't wear my
hallway.
face diaper, but so I didn't go to this place for over a year, and I walked in, and what's the first thing I see is that annoying self-righteous sign of, in this house we believe that blah blah lives matter and science is real and all immigrants are welcome and please come in and destroy our democracy. You know, that goddamn sign all the liberal assholes have in their yard. Well, anyway, I'm sitting there and I'm drinking this man's IPA, and I started talking about Henry Cavill, and this dude who, you know, wears a kilt and probably has pronouns, literally ran across the bar and was like, "Are you talking about Henry Cavill?" Now, I have nothing in common with this guy politically at all, but he is a huge Warhammer 40K guy. Again, he's a liberal lunatic, but he still has his fandom. Okay. One thing we can agree with, and I'm finding this more and more, is that even someone like that, that I share nothing in common with other than an ethnicity and a gender, at least what we were born at. Again, I don't know what this guy's pronouns are. Is that he said, "Why is Henry Cavill not James Bond?" This is a guy I know doesn't watch Nerdrotic, doesn't watch Drinker, doesn't watch MVP, doesn't watch me, doesn't watch anybody. Okay. He can see it plain as day too. And that's the crazy part about this, is that everyone knows Henry Cavill should be something. He should be James Bond. He should be Superman. He should be in Warhammer 40K. And if there was a god, he would have been in the Rings of Power in a faithful adaptation. But here we are. And again, what is the most easiest rational explanation to all of this? He's too much of an individual. He represents too much of what's good
Mhm.
and right about what they say they hate,
Yeah.
which is the patriarchy.
Yeah. Well, he's just a wonderful representation of who we are, just as a general
Yeah.
individual people. It's
Yeah.
not, you could sit there and say, yeah, he's too masculine. Well, you know what? I mean, there's what he embodies as an actor and how he carries himself outside of acting is something that is relatable. And so he relates to his fans. You look at everybody else. You mentioned Jennifer Lawrence earlier, and all these other
I'm Jennifer
they're
Lawrence. I'm Jennifer
right.
Lawrence. Do you know? I was going to do a video on this, and this is true, and I encourage you to look this up. Guess when Jennifer Lawrence dropped out of school to pursue her
I think she said middle school.
modeling career? She's
I think
14.
it was, yeah,
Never,
she's done with a 10
ever,
shit house.
ever went back to school. Guess when Seth Rogen dropped out of school? Explains a lot. He was 16. You know, the best work Jennifer Lawrence has done, I saw on The Fappening. Really, I was inspiring. I know it inspired me a lot. I was very inspired. I'd still like to know what Hollywood producer's office she was in, naked and doing all those things.
Oh, it was Weinstein. It's got
Yeah.
to be.
So Jennifer Lawrence, I believe, is on the cover of the Hollywood Reporter right now, talking about how stunning and brave she is with all of her diverse biologically born females, because apparently they hate trans people,
Ugh.
trans
Well,
women. Hollywood.
it's good to know like her and people like Meghan Markle can be so stunning and brave and just
Oh
oh,
God,
wonderful.
I used to feel bad for Harry, and now I just want someone to grab Harry and take him away and put him
Yeah.
through a detox, because that's Harry is the definition of codependency, and trust me, I know what I'm talking about when I say
Mhm.
that. I don't throw terms like post-traumatic stress disorder around without knowing what the fuck I'm talking about, and neither do I do that with codependency. So Yeah, let's take a look at this article. Oh my God, I know how to do this. And Steve, Prophet of the Dragon, if you're out there, get off of your sleepy ass and get in here. So, this is further confirmation that Wheel of Time is. We've heard rumors. I've heard rumors. I've heard it said that Wheel of Time season 2 is not going to at all be about the Great Hunt in any way, shape, or form. Now, Screen Rant is a steaming pile of dog vomit, but sometimes you can pick kernels of corn out of the fetid, stinking pile of it. Now, the title of this article says Wheel of Time Seasons 2 Moiraine Change avoids a big Game of Thrones problem.
Mm.
And Nathan, you haven't seen this yet.
No, I haven't.
Quote, by altering the story in Robert Jordan's books, Amazon's Wheel of Time can potentially avoid a major problem that afflicted HBO's Game of Thrones.
The last 3 seasons?
Yeah. So what they said was during its earlier run, Game of Thrones was hailed as a game changer, blah, 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 blah. Later seasons suffered by mishandling characters. Well, let's be honest, Wheel of Time suffered from mishandling characters before it was even released, leaving them by the wayside before returning them to center stage with little explanation for their absence. By changing Moiraine's perspective arc ahead of season 2, the Wheel of Time looks to set to avoid this problem. So they're saying the problem here is that Robert Jordan's story, which entirely focused on the very well developed characters of Rand and Matt and Perrin and Egwene and Nynaeve, and left Moiraine to do Moiraine's thing, which was to go over and do other stuff, is a problem because the woman who is cast to play Moiraine is a big Hollywood star and executive producer of this show. Am I reading this correct, Nathan?
I think so.
At what point there is no defending this show as an adaptation. Yeah, despite hardly being in the second book of the Wheel of Time series, The Great Hunt, Rosamund Pike's Moiraine looks set to play a pivotal role in the Amazon adaptation. Given her prominence in season 1, as well as Pike's status as a performer, this is perhaps an unsurprising change. Yet, given both the role that Moiraine plays in the wider Wheel of Time story and the problems faced by Wheel of Time, blah, 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 what it comes down to is this.
Right.
Moiraine is not in the story at this point. She disappears for a really long time for a really good reason. Now, that is in the story that Robert Jordan wrote. It is pretty clear that the things that we loved about what to me is the best book in Robert Jordan's series, The Great Hunt, it really is. But it is for the very reasons that Amazon and Rafe Judkins are seeking to destroy. What is it that you liked about The Great Hunt, Nathan? We haven't had this conversation on a live stream. We've talked a lot background. We've talked a lot over the past year about this. But what was it about The Great Hunt and the characters of Matt and Rand and Perrin and Egwene and Nynaeve and not Moiraine that made The Great Hunt good?
Well, but that's the thing. The whole journey of Matt and Perrin and Rand was amazing. And especially when you get into the mindset that Rand is going through with everything. He's got this whole mess with what the end of Eye of the World did to him.
Oh, yeah.
And handling how Matt and Perrin are reacting to it. But at the same time, his whole dedication is get the chest, get the horn, but most importantly, get the dagger, because the dagger is what helps save Matt. It was all about that.
Yeah.
He was fully dedicated to that. And then you go on from there and the whole journey all the way out to the east side where the Shan Chan venomously murdered that single girl on the beach.
Oh, yeah.
The whole journey there, how that jumps around, but it just jumps around so perfectly that it just you see a lot of character growth with especially with Egwene, which is
It's huge.
fantastic character growth, even though she's always a massive bitch. So that they got
It's
that
true.
right in the show. Um, Probably the only thing. Um, but it just culminates in such a good epic
It was
tale,
amazing. It
and
was
and
amazing.
and,
And it was
and the
earned. It was earned, and
yes,
it was earned from the very first sentence of the first book, The Eye of the
mhm,
World. And you knew how and why and how those characters suffered, whether it was
yeah,
Rand, Matt, Perrin, Egwene, Nynaeve. There was no Mary Sue. There was no
yeah,
Mary Sue at all. And look at what they've done to Nynaeve in one season of television. She's a whore, and she's the Mary Sue. You could
mhm,
not find a more opposite caricature of the Nynaeve from the books. When I did my
yep,
Wheel of Time interview with fans, I spoke with Unbearable 73, and I think this is last year. And I asked a series of questions because I wanted to do and say, not just say, oh, Wheel of Time is woke. Yeah, no shit, it is, right? But I wanted to say, what about the books did you love? What characters did you love? Why did you love them? And then how did Wheel of Time not represent that on the screen? Well, Unbearable 73 said his favorite character was Nynaeve because Nynaeve had to overcome struggles. She had to grow. She had
mhm,
pride. She wasn't the best of everything. In a lot of ways, Egwene had more talent in some ways than she did. And it took to magic sooner. But I mean, and again, but we've missed the whole arc in the Great
mhm,
Hunt of what happens with
yeah,
them and what happens with them
right,
starting out at a low level, scrubbing floors and doing dishes in the tower. It's crazy. What the fuck adaptation are they doing? Because it has nothing at all to
right,
do with Robert Jordan's world. And now I'm
yeah.
spurging out. Go ahead, Nathan. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, and the fact that you get this whole legend of the Great Hunt and you're reaching this climax of this is what's going to happen. And the, because Rand is known as the dragon, you know, and not widely at this point, but as the reader, you're anticipating him with the horn and just this whole battle scene going on and just this whole wonderful absolute culmination of the victorious charge, and it takes a turn and it's not who you expect. And you got redemption stories in there, you've got unlikely heroes in this story, you have uh, the indomitable will um, personified in this story, and you just have all 5 of the main characters stepping up in ways that exemplify the strength of the
Yeah.
spirit
Yeah.
that is really critical in the storyline, and none of it has anything to do with Moiraine, even though she's an amazing character in the books, but she's not the point. It's everybody else.
Yeah.
It's not about them going through these dark things in their lives and trying to figure out who they are. It's them sacrificing their own personal selves to be able to achieve what is necessary to be able to have society survive.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, when you remove the characters, who the characters were, the way they were written, not their superficial qualities, not even their age. When you remove the qualities that make a character, which would be their backstory, their motivations, their weaknesses, their own personal demons, and you choose to make those characters Mary Sue's because my message, because of ESG, because you're a talentless um, ideologue who's more concerned with promoting their sexual and political lifestyle choices in a fantasy property than even doing good writing that potentially could achieve that in less than a ham-fisted way. I mean, Rafe Judkins, I don't know how many times I've cursed his name, and I am not the only one. This is not an adaptation any more than The Rings of Power was an adaptation, any more than Willow is an adaptation, any more than Andor, Obi-Wan Kenobi, any of these shows. Now, again, I've said this before. Is it just a coincidence that every single thing that you love is being manipulated and therefore destroyed in exactly the same way. Is it? Is it the because I'm seeing some interesting parallels, and call me a conspiracy theory. Same thing with food production. Same thing with energy. Same thing with oil. It's almost as if culture, economy, political, and national sovereignty are all following the exact same playbook at the exact same time. I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy, or maybe I just don't have my head up my ass because this is not to me. There is no way all of these things are happening at exactly the same time unless it is all synchronized. It is. The world does
Mm.
not work in a way like this, where major investment banks, which are also responsible for your interest rates, the cost of your house, everything, your food, your energy, and now going to be responsible for the digital euro and the digital dollar based upon your social credit score from China. Again, not pulling this out of my ass. Read the Wall Street Journal. Read news. It's there. Do you think our entertainment isn't part of the manipulation toward those outcomes and goals? Because it is. It is. And so that's where I circle back to this thing of yes, we should call these things out. And yes, we should complain about them. But there is a certain point where we start doing the work of these evil bastards who are making these changes by continuing to prove their point so we can be quoted out of context by morons like Vanity Fair did even before the Rings of Power ever came out. Same thing
Mhm.
with Star Wars and that woman, and I'm just whatever. Nathan, am I crazy? I mean, yeah, I am.
No, 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 but nothing says pleasure like watching the Holdo purple hair maneuver, you know?
Yeah.
No, but
I bet
it's
you
a
she'd make that
it's a good
Star
point, though.
Destroyer. She'd make that Star Destroyer scissor if she could, but it's probably too phallic. Guys, I've got another article on this, and one of the things that I've been talking about this, believe it or not, for almost a year behind the scenes with Kyle, Zach Seven, with Nathan, with Steve, Prophet of the Dragon, and Nerdporial, is I don't want to be a hypocrite to what I was just talking about. I want to cover this show, season 2, in a way where I can express my displeasure, but what I really want to do is point out what you are missing, what they didn't make. And that to
Mhm.
me is the largest crime out of all of this is again, Nerdporial, Jacob Ironside. These are guys who are reading the Wheel of Time series for the first time in real time. I believe that Nerdporial is almost done with book 1, Eye of the World. He has not
Actually, he's
seen
finished it.
but he hasn't seen what Rafe Judkins did to that story on Amazon, and I want to be part of that when he experiences that. But book 2, for those of you who have not read the series, is when Robert Jordan really gets his sea legs. Book 1, you could tell it was let's just say he was a very kind homage to Tolkien. He wrote the book very tentatively, in my opinion, as a reader, and my way is not the only way. Nathan may have a different point of view. But really, when you get to book 2 and going maybe through book 7, arguably 6, the story that was carefully, methodically built, showing these characters as young adults slash older children, very naive, from a small farming community at the ass end of the world, suddenly being flung into a global conflict, which has been part of an ongoing cycle of reoccurring birth and destruction and conflict endlessly, and then trying to find their way in of it. This is what made the story compelling and is entirely absent from what Rafe Judkins has done. And by the changes that they're talking about, it will continue to be absolutely nothing like that incredibly compelling story. Do you agree with that, Nathan? Or you think I'm a
Yeah.
moron?
No, no, it's absolutely right on point. They won't they're not gonna give a shit about any of it. It's such a good story. You're right about it. Eye of the World set it up beautifully because I think most fantasy writers at that point in time were held to, you got to stick to a script, and that script is the Tolkien journey. And
It's
so
true.
you had like the Shannara series I couldn't get through because it was almost like taking the credit card swiper on Tolkien.
It's hard. It's
It,
something that I
it
read it
just
when it came out, like, in the 80s. So reading it in 82, 83, very different world. And it was, I'd
mhm,
already read Tolkien and The Hobbit, and reading that, it was like it was a bit of a slog. It's like walking through a swamp. There's really no other way to say it. You know what I mean? Now
yeah,
I like the
yeah,
characters. But yeah, you're absolutely right, Nathan. Sorry, didn't mean to
yeah.
interrupt.
Oh no, you're fine. But yeah. So when he wrote Eye of the World, it ended on a way that you could sit there and see how that could be a standalone. But then once he gets through it and it has the success that it does, he already had Great Hunt ready to go, and he put it out there. And based on
Yeah.
the success that he had with Eye of the World, he knew that he could sit there and take these characters and say, okay, now I'm going to take the Tolkien stuff that I've had that I used to build the base, and now I'm branching out from that. And this is going to be a vastly different experience from here on
Yes.
out. And he nailed it.
Yes. And Jordan subverted expectations when he wrote this book. Again, context
Mhm.
matters. You know, many people were not alive in 1991. I was in my first year of college when The Eye of the World came out. Now, this book subverted classical fantasy tropes up to that point, like Nathan said. Now, here's why: the most powerful beings in the world were women. This is 1991. This is pretty groundbreaking. Now, we had powerful women characters within fantasy before that, obviously. Um, but this was the only ones who were allowed to use magic were women, and they were literally revered as gods on earth because they could do certain things. Their counsel was sought after. People feared them. They were harbingers of doom. They were master manipulators behind the scenes geopolitically in this book. That is something that didn't occur in fantasy up until this point. And the problem is as many people have said, you can never be woke enough. So that second wave feminism was not adequate to meet the ESG scores, to eat the bugs and all that other shit, right? So they had to take those female characters and literally make them Mary Sue's, and the women who were powerful had to be even more powerful, and the men needed to be dialed back because there are three Taverin. It's Matt, Rand, and Perrin. The most powerful being Rand. Watching the arcs of those characters, Matt's is absolutely intriguing. Rand is painful. It's you. I have never loved Rand. I've never loved, but I watched his story going,
Mhm.
God, I would not want to be that guy. You know what I mean? And then you've got Perrin, who, again, another great character, but talk about tragedy. You know what I mean? Again, none of the characters are overpowered. They have
Mhm.
flaws. It's part of the hero's journey is your flaw gets you. Your vulnerability creates conflict, which you then have to rise above,
Yep.
which you then become the hero from. Do you see how that works? But
Yeah.
look at the women. Nynaeve is a raging bitch. She has an inferiority complex, so she acts like a bitch to everybody. And she has to learn to be more gentle. She has to learn to allow people in. She also has an amazing love story that goes on and on and on. And what did Rafe Judkins do? She took her clothes off and was banging the dude by episode 6, episode 7. And then she's like, I don't have time for you. I have my career. Hello. Has an Aes Sedai.
Right.
Like I really like
Oh,
that hard D, but I got my politics. Hello. Now I have to go
yeah,
stand on a field and burn out a bunch of other bitches
yeah.
that do nothing to, whatever.
Bucket
And
list
steal
land,
Rand's
check.
glory in the finale. Yeah. But
Yeah.
but I mean, tell me what you think about that because we see it
Oh,
too. And I know we're rehashing season 1, but if we look at the trajectory of what Rafe Judkins has did, and I said this before the goddamn show came out. When you make small changes from the very beginning, those changes are not linear. They are
mhm.
fractal. So instead of a slow slope, you end up with crazy shit that caroms off like it's quantum mechanics because you suddenly don't have a basis of the character and who and what the hell they are to begin with. And it was
Yeah.
episode 3 in the first season where this went from pretending to be a fantasy show to freaking a WB young teen romance, and there just happen to be swords. That's about it.
Yeah. The worst thing that when you sit there and say, "Well, all 5 are Taveran," um, what you end up doing is destroying the agency that Egwene and Nynaeve had in the books, where they had these wonderful story arcs. They had this wonderful natural ability that they had to figure out how to use. And when you sit there and say everything centers around them instead of the 3 boys, then all of a sudden now everything for them becomes coincidence rather than them going and pushing, trying to
Yeah.
achieve what they needed to achieve. And
Yeah.
you lose the motherly aspect of Nynaeve throughout the storyline, which she retained all the way
Yes.
through the books. And when you
Yeah.
sit there and you remove the mother hen out of her, you've screwed her out of everything. Now when
Agreed.
all she's interested is being single mommy, getting the D from daddy one and moving on, then you know, what's her character about then? If
She's
she
a
can sit there
bitch.
and yeah, that's all that it's about because now you've removed any block that she should have, and
Yes.
now she can just use it to beat away the therapist Monkin Shin. You
Yeah.
can have her mass heal everybody, which never occurred at all in the books
None
with
of those things
anybody.
did. None of what
You
you
know,
saw in season 1 happened at all. And they
yeah.
skipped probably one of the most important scenes, and I've harped on it in my own episode review videos, by not having Camelin and not having Rand climb a wall to meet another love of his life, which now
Mm-hmm.
she's going to be in season 2. Then well, let me back that up. You're going
Yeah,
to have a character
maybe.
with the name of who he should have been in love with, who is a queen's daughter, who essentially was sent to the tower and then runs away with the other girls to then play a very pivotal role in what we should see in the Great Hunt. And she is a great character because she goes from being a spoiled queen of a daughter princess to learning how the world really works.
Hmm.
Again, that sounds like a story, doesn't it, Nathan? Where you
Yeah.
actually would care watching someone suffer and grow.
Who needs character development?
Daniel nails it, says, imagine if they had made a season 1 into more of a Harry Potter movie one. Well, it's funny because throughout the holiday season, I have been watching the Harry Potter movies with Purple Valkyrie. It's a true story. And I haven't sat down and watched all of the movies end to end ever. I've like watched this, or I've watched my favorite one, which is probably Goblet of Fire. Let's be honest about it. But to watch them kind of back to back, it is painful to see just how good building a character methodically can be, and to know that they
Mhm.
can do it. They can do this, and they are deliberately not doing it. Deliberately. They're withholding from us that which makes us human beings and who we are. We're imperfect. We love, we hate, we make irrational decisions, but we're also capable of great bravery. We're also capable of amazing cowardice. We're capable of all of these things, and those things are uniquely human, and that is why the hero's journey works, because it's applicable across cultures and organizations. That's why Joseph Campbell's The Power of Myth is still accurate to this day, and that's why when you sit down and watch a movie from the 80s, the 90s, the early 2000s, you will find your soul filled, as opposed to sitting down and watching something today which literally is trying to reprogram the psychological DNA of your body to accept that this is what being a human being is, which means that there are powerful, good people who are women or are claimed to be women. I can't even make those fucking jokes anymore. I'm over it. I really am. The shit they're doing with kids. But they're trying to convince
Mm.
you that there are some people who are better and there are some people who have privilege and guilt. And that really what you need to be is, if you're really good and you're really smart and you're the wrong gender, you're part of the problem. But if you're really weak and you have superficial qualities and you want to be a victim, that really your story is more important. And regardless of what you can actually
Yeah.
achieve, because you have this preferred what do they call it? A disenfranchised physical appearance or a made-up
Yeah.
sexuality or a different pronoun, that suddenly your
Intersection.
story matters than anyone else's, especially someone who looks like me. You don't know where I came from. You don't know how tough my life was. You don't know what challenges I had to overcome. You don't.
Right.
And I don't talk about them. Do you know why? Because I am not defined by the shit that went wrong in my life. I am defined by what I did with my life despite it. And that is what is missing from our entertainment.
Yeah.
And they're doing it deliberately because they want no one to rise above what they're doing. What do you think about that, Nathan? Now, I know you are
Oh,
a man of faith. And I know you and I,
yeah.
we agree on some things, we don't agree on others. But as a
Mhm.
man of faith and someone who's a father of 2 young daughters that are, I've met them. They're wonderful, charming girls. As a matter of fact, they showed me some of the stuff they were making for Christmas. What do you think about all this stuff? Am I totally off?
No, it's absolutely right on point, and that's the whole point about them going and attacking everything through entertainment, because it's the easiest way to do it. And when you start, the younger that you start, the more malleable the minds are, and the more malleable the minds are, the more easily you can indoctrinate them into the lie. Then at the early age, the minute you start doing that, then it becomes tougher to break that down, because they have this shell built up around them, where the monolith of society that they want to build around these kids is what exists, and you as the parent then have to chip away at that constantly. And the later you do that, the more difficult it becomes. The earlier you get to that, the more the more easier it is to break down that confusion, because that's the ultimate goal. It's not to solidify people into a way of thought, it's to solidify the people into a manner of confusion. That way they can't tell left from right, up from down,
Bingo.
righteous from unrighteous, etc., etc.
Bingo. Yeah, no moral compass. Why do you think we have sympathetic heroes? Why do you think we need to have prequels to prequels to
Right.
prequels to give sympathetic backstories? It's to
Yeah.
remove the binary, whether it be
Yeah.
gender, because there's only two.
Yeah.
There's only
Look,
two.
look.
And there's good and there's bad. Now, there are some shades in between. But if you're
Mhm.
murdering puppies to make a coat in a Disney movie, you're bad. Okay?
Yeah.
You're really, really
Look
bad.
look at
It
look at how
you know?
look at how popular the anti-hero is. Now that anti-heroes can be a great character arc, but the problem is that anti-hero has become the standard, and now you
Yeah.
have to have everything be a bad guy who's a good guy, and all your bad guys have to have tragic backstories so that there's an excuse for their behavior rather than the
It's a
punishment.
rationalization. It
Mhm.
rationalizes why bad is okay. Like if this happened to me and I am a victim, which is, say it with me, boys and girls, intersectionalism. If this happened to me, I am allowed to be a piece of shit and a mass murderer. If this allowed to me, I
Yep.
am allowed to be a raging bitch who shits on everybody and is irresponsible and incompetent and won't help somebody because they have a penis or because their skin is my color. This is what we're talking about. And it's not stopping. And it sucks. And I wish I could sit here and go, well, everything's going to be okay because Henry Cavill is going to be in a 40K production on Amazon. You have no idea how much I want that to be everything
Oh,
we want. I watched Az's video today. I watched Maxfield Von Priestley's video today. We talked about that. Um, there are so many people who are into Warhammer 40K, including the dude last night that I was talking about, the weird leftist wearing a kilt who has that annoying preachy leftist shit on his walls in a bar. He said this before it was even announced that I want Henry Cavill to be in Warhammer 40K, and I just want it to be true to the source material. Even rabid leftists are starting to get tired of my narrative. They really are.
mhm.
Now, will they do
Yeah.
anything about it? Will they get on YouTube and rage like your man Salty and this handsome, sexy bit of masculine beautifulness beneath me? I don't know. But yeah, it's the beard. It's the beard.
It's
Yeah.
gotta be. It's
Yeah.
my
I don't
identity.
know. But all of this, Nathan, with your daughters, and I have to cover from you for a second.
Okay.
Wait, I'm locked out of my own thing again. I love this. I can't even hold on, I'm gonna do this. There, nobody heard that, right?
Thank God for hand
I,
sensors.
I don't know what the hell's going on with my machine. Ever since I talked about what Google was going to do, with the AI chatbots starting to keep track of your comments and scoring you. I've been kind of up shit creek. But no,
Yeah.
Nathan, what's troubling about this is that the amount of oh god, it's still acting up. What's crazy is the amount of teenage girls that used to have what was called gender dysmorphia was orders of magnitude lower than boys. It was primarily young
Mhm.
boys. And again, this was point not or 99999 has as said when he and I did a live stream probably about a year ago. It is 0.0000000% of the population that actually is
Yep.
affected by genuine gender dysmorphia. And of that 0.0000001%, 90% were boys. Boys. This is nothing that ever affected women, young girls, ever. Well, now what happened?
Yep.
Guess who's leading now? Young women. Young women, orders of magnitude of young women, young girls suddenly deciding they're going to be boys. There's someone that I follow on social media who's detransitioning, and I'd like to get her on the show. She's testified before Congress. She's a friend of Carrie. From Safe Space, who I've hung out with, and is a really good person. But I would like to have her on the show, and I'd like to have her talk about the influence of culture and entertainment upon young women. But this is a
Mhm.
case where this is a woman who had parts of her body removed before she was the age of 17 and was put on hormones that are used to castrate people who do really terrible things to children. And this is what's being promoted in our entertainment. And it's terrible.
Mhm.
And it's a downer. And I'm sorry. But this is what entertainment has become.
Yeah. There's
Sorry.
a
Go ahead, Nathan.
there's a book, and I haven't read it. I was told about it through well, there's a preacher by the name of Vadi Bakum. Oh, he had to drop. He'll be back. But preacher by the name of Vadi Bakum. He used to live down in Texas. He moved out to Africa to be a minister out there. But he was talking about a uh, a book that was written by, I think it was two guys who were
Mhm.
talking about how you go in and you change the minds of people through media, and specifically to make you know the Rainbow Coalition more acceptable to the masses. And they described this process in this book, methodically went through things and basically rolled it down into a terminology that they called jamming. And it's subliminal at first, and then it's ham-fisted at the end. No pun
Yeah.
intended.
That's
And
hot.
it's
That's ham. I love ham.
yeah.
Sorry. Well, you're making a point. I'm going to shut up.
But it was interesting to hear this preacher talk about it, that this is what they're doing, and this is, this was a book that was written in the late 80s, early 90s, and we're seeing the results of that being enacted in Hollywood today.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
because it takes about a generation or two for that to really cycle in, and you
Yeah.
always had the sympathetic gay character in each show for a long time, and then you always had token black characters or whatever. And you can have those characters in shows, but you got to project them evenly, just like you do with any other character. But they didn't do that. It was all about, we're going to shove narrative in through these characters so that
Yeah.
especially the gay community becomes more acceptable to the masses, because then you can destroy through that.
I've said it before, but I did graduate high school in 1989, and it will shock those of you under the age of 30 that yes, we did have gay people in high school in the 80s. And um, I was in theater, so of course I knew gay people. Okay. And what it was is it really wasn't that big of a deal. Do you know why?
Yeah.
Because what mattered, and I've said this many times, was were you an asshole? Were you an asshole? If you were an asshole, it didn't matter. If you were a gay asshole,
Yeah.
you were an asshole. If you were a straight asshole, you were an asshole. Like it didn't matter what kind of a person were you. And
All
what
right.
Nathan's talking about is, political correctness. I've talked about this ad infinitum. I was in college in the 90s when political correctness was everywhere. And it was the seeds. It was really the baseline of what you're seeing today. All of the crazy shit that you're experiencing, I already did 30 years ago. And I already had these fights. I already had these conversations because I was the head of the men's center in college, fighting these same feminists, fighting these same communists. And I remember this, and I'm going to say it again. I said, I want to build a dialogue with you because I want us to be on equal footing so that you're not calling me names and you don't even know who I am. You look at me and I'm 6'5", I'm white, I like chicks, and I'm terrible because reasons. Why are you doing that? And this is what was said to me verbatim. We don't want a dialogue. We don't want equality. We want to dominate and replace you. Now, who was saying that? Was it a poor white trash kid who grew up in a trailer park that got a scholarship to go to college? But because I was white and tall and athletic, I am responsible for society's ills? Or was it the rich girls whose daddies were and mommies were writers at the Washington Post or the New York Times or huge attorneys in New York City who drove a used BMW to go to college, who suddenly needed to hate the world because they had every advantage, and this is what they did because they for reasons. These are the same types of people we're dealing in entertainment. They are probably around my age. I know many of them who became professors, the ones who did not self delete themselves because their beliefs had destroyed their life. And if you think I'm kidding, I can name names, but I will not do it on YouTube. There is a trail of wreckage and devastation of people who are no longer with us that are my age, who started this. And let me tell you, there are very, very few of those people who did not go crazy or are not addicted to things. And what they're pushing in our entertainment right now will lead to an entire generation finding themselves in that same place. This is a
Mhm.
death trip. This is the end of Western civilization. You know, Western civilization has not got everything right, but we got a lot more right than wrong. And what they're seeking to supplant here, they have no other viable option. And why? Because it's not about equality. It is not about dialogue. What Rafe Judkins has done, what Payne and McKay have done, what's going on with WB, what's going on with our superheroes, Marvel, Star Wars, none of it has to do with respect, with understanding, with being part of us, with acknowledging us. It's about destroying and replacing. And it's that simple. And once you get it, once you get that we are not their enemy, but they are sure as shit ours, it changes your perspective and you kind of make YouTube videos in a different way and you end up sounding like me. And you're probably sitting and going, he sounds like he's really been blackpilled. I haven't been. This is just what's happening. Nathan, am I off the
Mhm.
goddamn rails or what do you think about that, dude? Tell me,
You are
we can
preaching to the
disagree
choir,
here,
brother.
really.
No, no, no. It's so there's a verse in Jeremiah. The heart is deceitful above all things and desperately wicked. Who can know it? And the when it says who can know it, it's a knowledge of depths that you can't explain. And the questioning of that means you can't delve deep enough to understand how bad it is. And so when you're talking about the mind of these sick fucks out there, like the Epsteins, like the Weinsteins, like the Bidens, all those, if your mind thinks it up
Wow, you just
more
pulled a
times than not,
salty. You just pulled a salty and
yeah,
said shit you
I know,
shouldn't have
right?
said on someone else's channel. I love it.
Yeah.
Continue,
Oh, my
continue.
bad.
Sorry.
But if you can think of it, $100 says people in power have thought of 10 times worse than what you've thought of. And that is because
Imagine if you
the
have everything
heart
you
of
want.
mankind is
Imagine if you had
just wicked and
everything.
evil. Yeah.
Absolutely. So power corrupts. Absolute power absolutely corrupts. Imagine if you're a billionaire, you can do anything. You can start wars, you can destroy economies, you can buy the
Soros.
most beautiful prostitutes, you can have anything you want. What is the one thing that you can't do or shouldn't do? What are some things you should never do? when you have
It is.
everything you want and can do any don't fucking say it on my channel, dude. When you have everything
Such
that you want and you no longer can get your jollies off, you have to do
yeah,
that which you cannot do.
yeah.
And that's what they're doing, guys. They're doing it right in front of our faces. I want to shout something
Mhm,
out, and I didn't miss it. William 101 has been with me from the very, very, very beginning. Um, you honor and move me. I know what's going on. I go to the grocery store. I put gas in my tank. I pay my bills. I look at my electric rates. I know a lot of us are having a hard time giving super chats like we used to. I'm just glad everybody's here. Thank you for that. But I want to say thank you very much, William One, for this $50 super chat. It means a great deal. He says, "Hey, all, been a while since I got to check you out live. Keep up the good work." William One, thank you for always posting comments in my chat. Thank you for responding to my videos, for watching things, for being a lively member of this channel that I created almost 2 years ago. It'll be 2 years in February. And I am honored that you are my friend, and I am humbled. I am humbled by everyone being here today, just on the spur of the moment. But I really want to say thank you very much for that $50 super chat. And because of that, because it's Christmas, I'm going to give you something that we used to do in the old Salty Show. And that's play you one of the original super chat videos I used to do just because I want to mix it up a little bit. William 101, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and this one's for you.
We travel light. That's handsome walk.
William 101, thank you very much.
I
Really.
take it back.
It's crazy. If you haven't subscribed to Wakazashi's Tea House, I think he's in the dreaded 900s. I think he's around 960. This is a hardworking man. Great, good dude. Our man in Japan does fantastic comic evaluations. Please check out Wakazashi's Tea House if I have any mods. I see Purple Valkyrie working hard, dropping links out there. Go ahead and give Gray a subscription. He's a fantastic dude, and he's a hell of a lot better looking than me and almost as good looking as Nathan. So, yeah. Let's go ahead and cover one last article, and then let's get out of here because I want to allow people to do other things that they want to do today. But this in particular, we all knew this. I covered this in a live stream going back to April, March, I believe, with Maxfield and Priestley, yourself, and I believe Purple Valkyrie. We all knew that Rafe Judkins' reward for destroying the Wheel of Time was to get God of War. I'm actually working on a video with that. Now, why is this relevant? We're finding out who the writers are for this. So let's get down to the brass tacks because this is
Yeah.
where you actually know things are going. Okay. So executive producer of Rafe Judkins. Now, the Expanse creators, Mark Fergus and Hawk Ostby, are also part of the creative leads on this. Now, what I'm afraid of, Nathan, is that these are not the people who gave us the fantastic first 3 or 4 seasons of The Expanse,
Right.
but they're the assholes who gave us the last 2 unwatchable seasons. What's your read on this, Nathan?
If that's the case, because this is the first that I'm seeing this, if that's the case, then God of War is instantly unwatchable. There's no way I'm gonna check this out. First of all,
Yeah.
just because Rafe Judkins is at the helm, but if these 2 guys are writing it, I know from what
Yeah.
you have said about seasons, I think 3 and 4 of, Expanse, or 4 and 5,
Yep.
how horrible and heartbreaking that
Unwatchable.
was for you to watch that. I watched the first 3 seasons, thought about going to the 4th, heard what you had said about it, and I'm like, okay, my interest level dropped." It was kinda like
Yeah.
my interest level with The Peripheral after the first 3 episodes, and then I saw what Prophet of the Dragon and all them
Oh,
said
yeah.
about episode 4,
Yeah.
and I was like, "Okay, I'm already done.
Yeah.
See ya."
I walked away. I thought the first I get with the Peripheral, I watched episode 1 and I'm like, maybe. And then I started watching episode 2 and I'm like, and then they got to the part where they were gonna rip somebody's eye out, and I'm like, all right, I'm out of here. And then I watched Nerdporial and Steve and other people talk about this and Kyle, and I'm like, I'm glad I didn't watch this show because it was the
Amen to
typical
that.
let's get 3 episodes in and then bait and switch, and it goes full intersectionalism, which
Yep.
happened in the Wheel of Time. I'm going to continue with this article because it is fascinating. So obviously the creators of The Expanse And those are some pretty good books, except it gets woke AF in the later books. Again, Mark Fergus and Hawk Ostby, they will write this and executive produce, while Rafe Judkins will be the executive producer and actual show runner. Now, this will be a co-production between Amazon, Sony Pictures, and PlayStation Pictures. Now, depending on how the contract is written, Sony may say you got to keep your intersectional horse shit out of this because we want to sell video games, Rafe. I don't know. Sony seems to be making money, something that Disney is incapable of doing, something that Amazon doesn't know how to do. By the way, is anybody else out there wondering where their next day deliveries went? I can't order a fucking vacuum cleaner filter without it taking a week to be delivered. And I don't live in the Antarctic. Yet these assholes are going to raise their Prime delivery like costs like in January? Must be nice. Must be nice, this Great Reset thing. Lower quality, less results, less accountability, but the shit costs more. Amazon, you are failing big time. You really, really are. So again, this is a co-production between Amazon, Sony Pictures, and PlayStation Pictures or Productions, which I know nothing about. Now, the show will, they say, center around the deity Slayer as he leaves his blood-soaked past in ancient Greece and goes into the Norse realm of Midgard. Now, I know Purple Valkyrie, who's in chat, is a huge fan of this franchise and loves this game. There is a storyline to this. When Kratos' wife dies, he sets out on an epic and dangerous journey, punctuated by gods and monsters, along with his estranged son, to spread his wife's ashes at the highest peak in Midgard. So, what changes do we think are going to be present? Do we think it's even going to be a father-son story? I'm guessing it's going to be mud diversity.
Could be.
Much like in the Last of Us. You guys see what's going on with The Last of Us, haven't you? I did a video over a year ago where I told everybody what they were going to do with The Last of Us. And now I'm seeing people put videos like going, oh my God, she's that daughter's like, she's multiracial and blah, blah, blah. It's like, yeah, they told us. They told us what they were going to do with The Last of Us over a year ago. Now, here it is. I don't know. Whatever. Apparently people don't like to make money. I don't know. Whatever.
Yeah.
I'm going to continue this article because we've been going about an hour and a half, and I know you got to go, dude.
It's all good.
So it's supposed to be based upon the story, and we've got all these statements. Oh yeah, the head of global television, Vernon Sanders, says, we are honored to share in the adventure of exploring the God of War mythology with Sony Pictures. The God of War is a compelling, character-driven franchise we believe will captivate, here it is, will captivate our global customers. Has much with this expansiveness and immersive worlds, has its rich storytelling. The question is, will it captivate people as little as the Rings of Power did? I'm guessing yes.
Well, it's the same studio that did that show, same studio that did Wheel of Time. It's the same studio that is doing Warhammer 40K. There's a lot to be nervous about with all that stuff, no matter what, no matter Cavill joining it.
I would like to think that Cavill in his contract has some say over script. I think after what happened with The Witcher and what happened with him getting fucked about by WB.
Mm-hmm. He is on as executive producer of that show. So there is a light there. But the question is how much power can he wield in that role with other executive producers and showrunners?
This is what needs to happen. And it goes back to a model that worked quite well and resulted in some of the best, most entertaining pictures we've ever gotten. And I'm looking at Peter Jackson on this one. Making a movie requires an enlightened monarch. It's a dictatorship. Someone has a vision, they fight to keep that vision. Mm-hmm. When did things go off the rails for Peter Jackson? When the studio interfered. That's when The Hobbit kind of went sideways. And even in retrospect, watching the Hobbit movies, I know it can be like 1.5 movies, 2 movies. there's some brilliant parts, but you can tell where the studio's like, you know what? We need to turn the Goblin King into a comedy. It can't be scary. We've got to make sure the little kids want to buy the Goblin King merch, right? And it's dog shit. It is.
Yeah.
Stick to the original stories. Yeah, bait and switch, some really good comments. I'm sorry I don't have anybody to produce for me today, but Purple Valkyrie's talking about God of War, says Kratos is a great masculine character. We've got the one and only James Nicholson. Great to see you. Says, yet more failing upwards. It never ends. No, but he's a good team player. You know why? Because he hits the ESG scores. You know why? Because if he hit the ESG scores, we don't have to pay as much on our hundreds of billions of dollars of money that we borrowed to make shit that didn't work and didn't make us money. It becomes a failing proposition. It really does turn into finance at a certain point. They are trying to keep their head above water, and the way that they're doing it is by trying to lower the interest rates from the failures they've already made in their debt.
Right.
But in order to do that, they have to make more things that don't.
Right. Because the CW lost money for millions of dollars for, I think it was 13 straight years. I think the article headline that I saw earlier in the week, 13 straight years of 9-figure losses. How is that company in existence after just 2 of those?
It's propaganda. And look who's here, our man in Canada, who's too busy to come and hang out with Salty. I know, dude. I know you're working. And Nathan, dude, we're gonna have to do a stream. We're gonna have to do an EFAP level breakdown on that story that you broke on Sanderson yesterday. Hail to the one and only Zax. It's absolutely great to see you. Rick Silva says, hey to Zax too. Daniel says, wonder if a Greek story about Greek gods will have any Greek actors in it. No, but the trans will be going Greek. If you know what I mean. If you wink, wink, nod, nod.
Oh,
yeah.
It's not going to be a son. It's going to be a daughter, and she's going to be busy telling daddy how to do everything on the way to Midgar.
Yeah. Daniel also nails this. You'll be able to get a full understanding from the casting announcement. I sure hope the son is non-binary. I sure hope we know the pronouns of the cast, just like we did with the Sandman, because the Sandman was just so terrible. 2022 has not been kind to any of it, has it? And it doesn't look like 2023 is shaping up to be a real barn burner, a real humdinger either. Again, I'm not trying to blackpill you. I'm just presenting what I'm seeing, and I don't want to feel this way. But you know what is good? Is sitting down and watching the extended version of Lord of the Rings. I've seen it a million times. But watch it with other people. Watch it virtually. Watch it with some of these people, these lunatics that you see on here on YouTube, or some people you see on social media. Share the experience of that entertainment with someone else, and you will find that it changes the movie. That's why I've been watching it with Purple Valkyrie. Purple Valkyrie's dropping all of this knowledge and her experience and talking about her perspective, and it changes the experience for me because it's not just me sitting alone with the screen. Now, not all of us can be sitting together. I would love to be hanging out with Nathan, with Kyle, with Steve, with Brian Nerdporial, with a whole bunch of other people, with Mike OBG70, and having a drink, having a beer, rolling some dice, killing monsters. Can't do it, but we can do this instead. So
a great place to do that is Nerdporial's Discord, because he has a little movie theater set up in there, and we get in there. We watched
it's good.
A Japanese subtitled movie a few weeks ago.
I was there. I talked about it afterward. Yeah. It was Lady Snowblood.
Yes, that was it. It was fantastic. And you sit there and you're sitting there watching the movie. You're having conversation at the same time. And it's not quite like sitting in the same room with all your buddies, but you're still in fellowship with everybody else, enjoying what's being presented as an actual art form rather than the garbage that we're getting slung at. And it's just great because you're in that moment carefree and in enjoyment. It's phenomenal.
Dempsey says, and I believe he's speaking to me, says, I'd love to see an original story done the same way you did with your War of the Worlds video. Something like that might be happening. I have published, not fantasy, but I have done white papers on things because, that's always fun to read. But I have written screenplays in the past. I have done other things. I don't know if they're any good, but that would be kind of fun. Speaking of which, this is the announcement. I was going to do a Christmas Carol radio play. But due to it being this time of the year, people's availability is very difficult. And also the person that I wanted to play Scrooge, very talented individual, is unavailable. And I attempted to do the part myself, and I am no good at it. I'm not. I'm a better feller on this one. We're gonna wait and do this next year because I want to do something like A Christmas Carol right. I am going to do another one of the Salty's Vintage playlists probably this weekend, where we just hang out, listen to Christmas music, and just have fellowship and just kind of hang out. And then I get a series of copyright claims, and it's blocked in Indonesia for playing Bing Crosby. But I don't care, and I don't make any money on it, and I don't want to make any money on it. I just want to hang out and wrap Christmas presents and see what Mags and Daniel and Dempsey and Hardlight and Adasia and Zax and everybody's doing. And Jacob Ironsides, we're just hanging out talking about, oh, I like this song or I like that song, because we can't all hang out together. We can't hang out at the bar. We can't hang out at the club. We can't, we can't even run into each other in the goddamn grocery store because it's the big world. And it breaks my heart because I want to have a pint with you guys. I want to have a pint with everybody. I really do. And Prophet of the Dragon's behind
Just
or
one?
Zax, because that
Just
Canadian money's worth some. I said one to begin with, dude.
Okay.
After that, it'll one. It's that new math. It turns into 8, and then clothes come off, and then singing occurs.
Gotta
Which
carry
no
them
one
all.
wants either one of those things. Let's be honest about it. So we're going to wind this thing down. I want to thank everybody who has been in chat. You guys are absolutely fantastic. Thanks for jumping on. Thanks for being here. Thank you for the super chats. Thank you very much. Thank you. And of course, my thing is nuked. I want to say a special thank you to William 101, and I believe it was Psycho Dwarf 9 who also gave a super chat. Wow, I'm glad I don't have early onset yet. Lyle Hammock says, yep, my family is getting together tomorrow, as we have done the last 18 years, to watch the complete and extended Lord of the Rings trilogy for Christmas. I remember talking about that with Lyle last year. These are the things that we can do and we can share. You can fight with your family and your relatives and everybody else, but everybody loves watching this movie. And if they don't, get a wood chipper. I mean, if they don't, that's okay too.
Fargo?
What do you got going on, Nathan? Where can people find you before we get out of here and let these fine people go drink eggnog or,
you can find 2-month-old videos.
Sweet.
Yeah, you can find 2-month-old videos of me on my channel, Man of Manetheren. I'm gonna try and get some work done on my current project of how Wheel of Time Season 1 should have been, and present that in a way that, well, Rafe will summarily dismiss.
I want to help.
Probably.
I'll help you.
Yeah, I'll talk to you offline about that, because I definitely need a couple bits of input with it in terms of audio and stuff like that. So
you got it, dude.
But hopefully I will start being able to kick that out hopefully next month, and we'll we'll just see where it goes from there. Other than that, just getting on lives with this guy, getting on lives with Steve, Prophet of the Dragon, Nerdporial, and Purple, just hanging out with all the good folks.
Absolutely. Dempsey, we are working on that. I have a new camera. I've got dice sets working. We're not going to do D&D. We're going to do something called Into the Labyrinth, the fantasy trip from Steve Jackson Games. You can go out there and find a PDF of it that's out there. It's a simplified version of this, and what it really does is it allows the DM to move the game forward a lot more quickly. It requires the DM to work a lot harder than you do in Dungeons and Dragons, but it also is an entertaining experience than trying to cross-reference tables, especially in this type of a forum. And something I don't want to do is have people use online generators and rollers. I want people to have a camera that show their dice roll. That's what I want to do. And we're going to start looking at that in January. There's just a whole lot of things going on right now that will happen. And I think it'll be a lot of fun. Hail to Doviende, say Tovius again. It would not be a live stream unless I said Doviende, say Tovius again. It's great to see you. And as Purple Valkyrie rightly says, subscribe to Nathan, a man, a Manetheren. Merry Christmas to everyone, and a Happy New Year, Happy Hanukkah. They're doing everything they can to make this not a very fun Christmas for us, aren't they? But fuck them. That's what I
That's
got to
right.
say. You know what I mean? I'm a designated representative of the patriarchy, and I'm here to tell you to shove your intersectional feminism right up your dried crotch. Lyle Hammock says, Merry Christmas to you all and hail this amazing fellowship. See everyone later. Nathan, thank you for being here. I saw something I want. I want a dice tower. I really do. Dempsey. Those are cool. They're very cool.
They got some real sweet ones out there.
Thank you to everyone who's been in chat. Thank you very much for the super chats. Thank you to Purple Valkyrie for doing the Lord's work and doing the following up on everything. And I know how to do this, but I just want to say you'll see me again. You'll see Nathan again. I hope everyone's having a great Friday. I hope you have an awesome weekend. And we will see you guys later.
Merry
Bye.
Christmas, everybody.